When he grabbed her hand and said, "Stay with me," and then Carol kind of said, "No, she wants to, join the rest." I was like, "Ooh."
You know what? That never occurred to me, and I don't know if I should be happy about that or embarrassed that I didn't think that.
And to me, it continued to paint Shane in a better light because, he beat the crap out of this guy, and this guy needed to have the crap beat out of him.
At least.
You remember last episode, he specifically said you lay a hand on your wife or daughter. Do you think people in the camp had a sense that was going on?
Might have. I thought he said
If they
fight
didn't
for
let it
anyone
continue,
else.
that's pretty messed up.
Yeah, I don't think if they knew that was actually going on while they were there that they would have let it go.
I hope
But
not.
yeah, but that whole scene just really gave me the creeps. I was like, oh.
Now, obviously, some time has passed. Darkness has fallen. Everybody's sitting around the campfire enjoying some fish. And what was the dad's name? You said his name earlier.
That was Morales.
Yeah, Morales says, Dale, I got to ask you, man, why you wind that watch every day? For all intents and purposes, time has come to a standstill. It's not that important anymore. And Dale, very long-windedly and somewhat eloquently, explains why he winds his watch and why it's still important to him.
I got to say that I have not had a problem with the acting in the show at all, as Brad, I think you mostly had mentioned earlier, and some of us did as well with some different people early on in the show. But that being said, Jeffrey DeMunn absolutely schooled everyone on the screen in that scene. He was flat out awesome.
His teeth are perfect. I noticed that the second watch through. He has the most obnoxiously perfect teeth I've ever seen. They're like uniform in shape and size and everything. He kept smiling, so you could just see the top row of teeth. I was like, that's weird. No one should have that perfect teeth.
And it's funny, I know we beat it to death, but Jeffrey DeMunn is not who I picture when I think of a live-action version of Dale. But again, to beat a dead horse, but it just works so well. Whereas with Jim, the guy playing Jim is exactly like I would picture Jim if he were in real life. I think he's maybe the closest to his cohort in the live-action version that I've seen so far. Maybe Glenn, and maybe Andrea, but I think Andrea's a bit of a stretch because I think she's a little older than they play her off in the book.
Yeah, same thing with Carl. He looks just like him, but older.
Right.
Yeah,
Jim, point, Carl.
Jim, it literally is a comic book panel come to life.
Yeah.
I agree. Dale, Jeffrey DeMunn, that was a fantastic scene. Amy gets up to excuse herself to use the restroom, and we cut to Ed's tent, and we see a silhouette and a shadow of somebody rummaging up against a tent. He thinks it's one of his family come to check on him to try to get him to join the group. Turns out it's not. It's a zombie, and he eats Ed. Amy comes out of the camper to complain about the lack of toilet paper, and Amy gets bit. This is when hell breaks loose. The gates open. It is Zombie City.
We should note that the zombie who bites Amy is, again, Greg Nicotero, and he's much more recognizable this time, but he's definitely the one who bites her arm and later neck.
Nice. Again, not to get too far into the comic, but this is what if you haven't read the book, and I know we talk about it all the time, but if you decide to pick up the book, this is the kind of stuff that goes on in the book. This is like verbatim. This is, I mean, not as far as who gets killed and that kind of thing, but just quiet moment, everybody's fine, things are calm, and then boom, like Brad said, all hell breaks loose and people start getting bit and craziness and shooting and everything else going on.
This episode makes me wish more than ever before watching this show that I never read the book.
Good point.
Because I had a feeling that this scene was going to happen in this episode because of the sisterly bonding at the very beginning of the episode. A little more bonding when they bring the fish back to camp. It's Amy's birthday tomorrow. We know from reading the book that Amy gets killed fairly early in the story, and so I saw this coming, but still, it was just like watching the comic book come to life.
Between the bonding and the getting up and going to the bathroom by yourself, at that point it was like, all right, sweetie, your time has come.
Yeah, man, zombies are everywhere. Red shirts are biting it left and right. Everybody's got a gun, is shooting. Rick and company apparently have been walking home from downtown Atlanta this whole time because it cuts to them. They hear the gunshots. Rick says, "Oh my God," and they start to run the camp. Jim and Morales have baseball bats and are going to town on these zombies' heads. And it's really interesting the way this scene was shot because you get a lot of blood spatter on the camera.
Yeah,
it was extremely chaotic. Like I thought it was really effective in conveying exactly the fear and the sense of I don't know what's going to happen next that the characters would be going through.
Yeah, I'm not too sure I breathed at all during the scene.
Oh man, and one of the other things is that it's hard to convey this in the book is when like Carl is just like crying and screaming and there's all the chaos. That's something that definitely translates better to film than it does to the sequential page. I mean, as good as a job as in this case Tony Moore and Kirkman did, and then even later Charlie Adler. When things like this happen further on, it's nothing compared to camera movements and people screaming and seeing it play out in real live, so to speak.
Does this happen in the first trade? Or
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have been asking, like, what can I read between seasons and not spoil too far ahead? And
well, it's like I said last episode or 2 episodes ago. If they keep the tempo up that they have, readers in the off season aren't going to get a whole lot of books to read if they don't want to go past where the show is.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be some very clear divergence that if you read even the first trade, there's going to be some significant difference between even the first and second trade and what's going to happen in the first and second season. So that's a tough call. I think it's just one of those deals where you just got to bite the bullet. Either you enjoy what you're seeing in the TV show, you may or may not have read the first trade, and if you'll have to make the decision whether you want to just keep reading or not.
I'd say definitely your mileage will vary too. In that I've read the whole series. I read the first trade. Well, whenever we read it, I think it was episode 1 or 2, and I'd already forgotten a lot of the stuff that happened. So if you are a person with a memory akin to mine, it might not bother you at all. I remember some of the bigger things, but most of the nuances I didn't remember that Amy died this early on. It didn't affect me at all. It was kind of a nice surprise at the end of the episode.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of like you. I read so many comics a month that it's easy for it to get caught in the fog. But I've read, I think, the first trade of this thing 4 times, 5 times maybe. So it was a little more clear to me. But I mean, I plowed through. I kind of played catch up, and I think I plowed through the first 48 issues of the series like super quick. I mean, really fast, like where I was reading whole trades in one sitting.
Yeah, I'll do that all the time.
Much. Yeah.
Speaking of trades, we should mention that trade number 13 comes out in stores Wednesday. That would be Wednesday the 24th if anyone wants to pick it up.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be there to pick that up.
Me as well.
So Rick and company arrive as the others are crowded around a little group trying to make it to the Winnebago, get in the camper. Rick and everybody that has a gun are taking out zombies left and right. Meanwhile, Amy continues to be the main course for this one particular zombie. She gets a really nasty chunk bitten out of her neck. Once all the zombies are taken care of, Andrea rushes over to Amy, cradles her. There's a really long scene with the two of them. I understand, but I think it probably was a little long.
I thought you were going to bring back to life.
Well, I kept wondering, okay, her eyes are going to close, and now she's gonna come back to life. It was one of those deals. Like,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
have a feeling that might start episode 5.
yeah, it might. And all of a sudden, and just for clarification, and I'm not asking, so please don't answer. I don't remember if that happens in the comic, whether she comes back to life or not. So I'm glad I don't remember. But that reminds me, back at the very beginning when they're fishing, and you can hear a fish hit and pull the line. Andrea says, "Looks like you got a bite." Was I the only one that thought perhaps she was going to reel in a zombie?
No, yeah, I definitely thought she like snagged something dead in the water that she was gonna maybe pull up a hand or an arm or something like that.
I was actually thinking last episode when Shane was in the water trying to get the frogs to Carl, I was waiting for something to come out of the water at that point.
Well, how about just the line, "You've got a bite," for foreshadowing?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
That is
there you
definitely
go.
Kirkman style humor too. That's the kind of thing you throw in.
Yeah, I found that ending scene very. It was like hard to watch.
Yeah.
You know, it was just very gut wrenching, and again, because they set so much of this up early on for you to get so attached to these two characters and for them to be so close, and you know, kind of setting them both up as being main characters. It was hard. It was hard. It was hard to watch.
And kudos to Laurie Holden who plays Andrea. I mean, she wrote the book on that scene right there. I mean, she was crying, and I mean, lots of actors can cry, but she was really doing it well in that scene.
So Amy finally falls still, and we cut to Jim, and he says, "I remember my dream now, why I dug the holes." And it cuts to the final shot of the show, which is a shot of all the survivors gathered in a group surrounded by dead bodies, zombie and non-zombie alike. And the last thing I thought at this point when I saw this is still no Merle. Merle hadn't made it back to the camp yet, so that's still an unanswered.
Well, have you guys heard the theory about that? There's a couple different ones floating around. One that I had in my video review, which is slightly comic spoilery, so I won't go into that. But the other one, and I don't subscribe to this theory, but I maybe could see it happening, is that Merle loaded up zombies into the box truck and let them loose on the camp. Now, I'm not saying I subscribe to that, but it's out in a lot of places.
Wow.
A lot of people are really subscribing to that theory.
We actually have a voicemail that we'll do in a little bit that's similar to that. Yep.
Well,
Wow.
I'll defer to the voicemail then. I don't think so because there was no separation in that box truck between the driver's seat and the back of the truck, and that would be kind of problematic. But we'll see.
So, fade to black. I'm giving this episode 4.5 busters. Still no buster, by the way. I was looking for him.
I'm right around there. I'm still at 4.5. I'm trying to think if I liked it better than last week. I think I liked it a little better than last week. I think again, pilot awesome, guts up and down, and these next two have really gone in the right direction.
Yeah, I'll say solid 4.5. This is very. I think if it wasn't for a couple miscues and some kind of weird acting and a little disjointedness, I think on the direction side early on, this probably would have been a 5.
Yeah, Johan Rank tore it up this time directing. I will give it a solid 4.75. I think I'll take off that quarter point just for the first scene and some of the stuff that didn't work for me. But otherwise, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Very cool. How about we check in and see what some Twitter folks thought? Love it. Gendive, 4.5 out of 5 busters for the ending alone. Luthen, 4.5, really liking Big Bald Head, which on Twitter is Norman Reedus.
Well, speaking of Luthen, he's the one who passed on that particular theory that I mentioned earlier that I thought I would share with you guys. He tweeted, "Hey, Daryl shot that guy with a tainted arrow, right? I wonder if that dude will change." So Daryl shot, was it Felipe in the butt with an arrow early in the episode? And then you can clearly see, because I rewatched the episode, you can clearly see Felipe limping around holding his butt the whole rest of the episode. How much do you guys want to bet that somewhere down the line he turns and he kind of takes out quite a few of the old people in that nursing home, making the Vatos very angry?
I wouldn't be shocked, but I would be impressed.
Yeah, that'd be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think we all owe Luthen a thumbs up if that comes true.
Ducky is lost, gives it 4.5 little dogs in a basket. Sadly, I don't think we'll see Buster again.
Bite your tongue.
She also says Rick really went back for the hat with a smile. There's a couple mentions of the hat, little Indiana Jones moment type.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that when Brad was doing his recap, but yeah, I just kept thinking Indiana Jones.
That was a great line from Glenn when he goes, "You just came back here for your hat, didn't you?"
Yeah, I really liked that when he made a point to go back for it. I didn't make the Indiana Jones connection, but it was cool, because that's an iconic thing in the book is that hat on Rick's head the whole time.
We got Harley Big Daddy checking in again with a 4.5. Damn good episode. More Norman Reedus mentions. Daryl, hands down, my favorite on the show. Badass, loving his lines. I did think Norman Reedus did a really nice job here. They kind of made me nervous. I never noticed before, but in the opening of this show, I noticed that Norman Reedus got the guest tag, guest starring. So I was afraid that meant that he would be leaving us soon, but I guess he's made it through to episode 5 at least. Texician, another great Twitter friend of ours, 4 out of 5. It was great, but not awesome, Vato. So he likes it. I guess he liked a couple of the shows more than this one, but he still gave it a 4. Bum Bum Girl, that's our friend Colleen. She gave it 4.5. Another great episode. Not to go all fangirl, but Norman Reedus was amazing yet again. He gets all the best lines. It looks like that's about it. We got some tweets from other friends. Luthen again, and Groven, who's Dan from San Antonio, big friend of ours. He says that we're doing a lot of wishful thinking, numbering our episodes 001 and so forth. So I guess we're hoping for at least 100 shows, which would be very cool. And,
Speaking of which, real quick, it looks like the numbers are still holding pretty strong. From CBR posted a link today that showed the ratings as 4.8 million, which is slightly down from last week, but better than episode 2. So I think it's kind of leveling off, and it's still better than a lot of stuff on cable. I'll tell you that. So
It's better than a lot of stuff on network television.
Well, yeah, you got that right. So I think it's in good shape. I mean, series like Mad Men and Breaking Bad, who Mad Men's going into it'll be coming into its 5th season. So and it's survived lower ratings than this. So I
It's like half the ratings.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
this show's doing awesome.
I mean, unless this thing just totally goes off a cliff, between season 1 and season 2, I think we're in for a longer haul. I think we'll at least get 3 to 4 seasons, if not 5 or 6. So I think it all depends on. I think if season 2 does as season 1 has been, or pretty close to it, I think they'll try and lock everybody in for at least 2 to 3 more.
Just a couple more quick ones. We have Jinxie3. That's Dawn. She says, I'm still traumatized from last night's episode. Awesome cast, awesome writers, awesome show. 4.5 busters. Crash Disaster gives it a 5 for the ending. Again, we've heard that before. Bloody zombie attack on the camp. Holy crap. I love the twist with the Vatos. So thanks to everybody. Again, we got some more tweets, Zero Fights and Topher Mendoza and a lot of other people that are chiming in. We appreciate it. Kyle, looks like Herbert, or he could be French, Brad. It could be Kyle Abear. But he says he was trying to leave a voicemail and he couldn't, so he chimed in. So again, we apologize for that. The voicemail is all fixed now. Starbuck2212 also checked in and said the show keeps getting better and better every week. So
I
thanks
think I know
everybody.
her.
What's that?
I said I think I know her. I'm not 100% sure. I forget people's Twitter names.
Well, his name is Darren.
Okay, well then I don't know him, but I'm sure you're a very nice person, Darren.
Hey, can I know, like you said earlier, we had issues with the voicemail. I just wanted to offer the listeners another option. Obviously the preferable way to do it is to leave a voicemail at the number which is associated with our show. But if there's ever a time that the voicemail goes down, and let's hope there's not, that was probably a fluke, but listeners are always welcome to call the voicemail line for my show, the Half Hour Wasted voicemail line, and leave a message, and I'll make sure it gets to the show. It's just I'm just trying to make it easy, for anybody who needs to leave a message. The number for that show is 972-798-3830. I don't ever expect our Walking Dead voicemail to go down again, but just in case it does, that's another option. And like I said, I'll make sure it gets to the show.
And if you don't want to pay telephone rates, you can always record an MP3 and send in your voicemail to our comments email, comments@walkingdeadtv.com.
All right, so where are we at here, fellas? I know we have a couple of Vatos voicemails now that came in after the show aired, so let's try. Oh, here's an interesting one. Let's check this one out.
Hey there, what's up? Anthony Waddle. I played Miguel last night in episode 4 of The Walking Dead Vatos. Yeah, man, I just want to call and let everyone know that everyone on set was really cool. All the other Vatos were really nice. I know they're about talking to, but they're all much teddy bears. But yeah, I also just wanted to know what other people had to say about my character, so I can work on some things. But that's what I have. I also want anyone know that Miguel comes back. So y'all go ahead and reply to this so I can see what's up. Thanks.
All right, I'll say it. How do we know that that's not just some schmuck calling in saying he's the guy? Have we confirmed this?
We have confirmed it, Brad. He also left a comment on my YouTube review, youtube.com/Jordan from Jersey, of the episode. And by following back to his page, he's actually got two 2-year-old videos of himself with a drastically different haircut. You can agree with me there, John, right? And it's definitely him. So thank you for contacting the show, sir.
That's very cool. I'd like to know how he found out about our little show.
And we're sorry about the schmuck thing.
Hey, I'll always be the guy who plays devil's advocate on the show.
So that's Anthony. Did we catch the last name? Maybe we can do an IMDb.
I can just look at my comments because he signed it. I can get you the exact spelling.
Now, I wasn't calling you a schmuck. I said, how do you know it's not some schmuck? There's a difference between you're a schmuck and some schmuck. So let's just clear that up. Let's get that on the table right now.
This is Anthony Guarado, Guaardo.
Awesome. Well, thanks for calling in, and hopefully you show up again on the show. I thought it was a funny character.
Was he asking if he shows up, or was he saying he shows up?
I don't know. You had a little glitch in the voicemail there.
If he's asking, sir, we don't know.
I assumed he wanted to know if we thought that he might be back, or if we'd want to see that character back. I thought he had a funny thing going on with Daryl. Like every time the kid opened his mouth, Daryl would threaten to slap him, and somebody would have to hold Daryl back.
I thought it was funny. He had a pair on him when he said, "Are you calling Guillermo a liar?" He's not in a position to be smart enough, and yet he does. I really liked that. I thought that was cool.
Another thing about him that I mentioned to Russ, I think, before we started recording was he didn't look the part. Like at first I was like, is this kid really like a hardcore kind of like initiate gangster member or whatever? And it turns out that it makes sense. No, he's not, because they're not a real tough street gang. They're very cool. And there was another person that called immediately after him from the same area code praising him as well. So I'm pretty sure that was his buddy, which is cool. But the quality was kind of bad on the audio. We couldn't really understand. But you guys call in anytime. We appreciate it. And
Yeah, I'd love to see the Vatos back. I'd love to see them follow up some more. Again, just a great way to bring in some characters that aren't in the book, to give it some variety. And I could definitely see at some point one side needing something from the other, or like Jordan was saying, maybe there's something else might be going on there.
And you just know Robert Kirkman had fun, kind of going back in time almost and reliving something that happened, but embellishing on it and adding things. I'm sure he got a big kick out of that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one more. I think this is the one that mentions Merle possibly loading the truck with zombie action.
Hey guys, this is Jimmy in Georgia with a message for the Walking Dead TV podcast. I just had a thought about last night's episode. I don't know, maybe you've already talked about this. This is podcast, whatever. But what do you think brought zombies to the camp? Do you think it was the car alarm from like 2 days prior to that, or do you think it was maybe Merle? I don't know. That was kind of my impression. I don't know why, but we know he stole the truck. And I'm like, well, maybe somehow he drew the zombies there, or even captured some and let them loose on the camp as a revenge thing. I don't know, but I was just my random thought. Thought I'd share it, and I'll look forward to hearing your show. All right, thanks. Bye.
All right, thanks for that, Jim. So yeah, there's that theory again. Do we have any other guesses as to? Are we going to even get an explanation for what led that whole pack there? Probably not, right? Just leave it to our imagination. There are a lot of ways that they could have been attracted at this point.
I mean, again, not to spoil too much from the book, but there's a similar, there is a scene similar in the book, and knowing that, again, I think this is where the bias of the book really hurts, me personally as a viewer, because I bring my own biases and my own, prejudices into watching the TV show. But I just took it as, okay, there's a scene similar to this in the book, so there wasn't any, motivation behind it or whatnot. So I didn't overthink it, I guess is what I'm saying.
All right, so let's get to some emails, Jordan.
Sure. We got a bunch of emails, and I'm going to have to edit them down just a little bit because they're really long. First email we got was from Chris. He said, I've been very interested in The Walking Dead since the podcast started. I was interested in the series mainly because it was very different from your typical zombie show and or movie. After watching the TV episode so far, I'm enjoying it mainly because it focuses so much on the characters and how they act, which is something you never really get from other zombie movies. I have friends that have read the comic and don't really care too much about the show, mainly because of the changes. This was especially evident in episode 4. They weren't really digging the whole nursing home aspect, and I had to enlighten them that the situation drove home the point that A, shows Rick's character and that he's pretty consistent and willing to repay his debt to Glenn. B, it shows how the people are surviving, that humanity isn't completely lost. C, it shows you can be a pizza boy or a janitor and still know your stuff. And D, it shows another situation of what you would do, or another crazy situation where you had to decide what you do in that situation, which is pretty much what the book is about. It's the character study of people acting out in a chaotic situation. Despite the book being about zombies, it really isn't. I hope the show keeps going, because keeps doing what it's doing, because it is awesome. Thank you for your time. So thank you for that email, Chris.
Yeah, I can get behind most of his comments. I mean, again, I don't want a verbatim retelling of the Walking Dead comic book. I think they're making changes that work, for TV.
Next, we had an email from Lucas King, the Crippled Avenger. He says, Greeting, Legion of Dead. We kind of like that. It was chuckle-worthy. Apologies for not getting in touch with you gentlemen sooner, but much like zombies, I'm a very slow person, both in walking and emails. First off, let me say how happy I am this podcast exists and that it's doing so well. The quality of the HHW LOD pedigree is in full effect here. I always refer folks asking me about The Walking Dead to this show, as it's excellent companion to their watching. And I should mention, you guys can check out other shows, hhwlod.com. It's hhwlod.com. You can find Half Hour Wasted and Legion of Dudes podcast. Back to the email. As for the show itself, it is amazing. The scope is truly stunning, and the casting is up to this point is perfect. Dale and Glenn in particular walk right off the pages, in my opinion. The violence level is both welcome and surprising. I didn't think AMC would let them have this much freedom as far as the zombie gore. With a story like this, it's needed though, so I'm glad they didn't handcuff the show by cutting back on it. As far as the deviations from the path that have been happening, I'm surprised how much I've really been liking it. Whether it's to show the friendship between Shane and Rick that is only applied in the comic, or the more enhanced background of Morgan and Dwayne. I really like seeing things I've always wanted to see in the books on the small screen. Also, I think that these deviations will be a nice way to concentrate or expand on certain points of the book in the future. Like you gentlemen, I've tried my best to force my comic knowledge to the show, but it's very hard. When Rick finally found his time in episode 3, I choked up big time just knowing what a big moment it is for all those characters, and also for the viewers knowing what's down the road. And of course, There's Lori. I'd like to give it to Sarah Wayne Callies and also the writers for making a unlikable character just that. I've always disliked the character in the comic. Lori is a person who does wrong and deflects the blame to everyone but herself and also casts blame on people for this insane situation that no one has control over. Callies' acting and the way she's written shows this off in spades. They could have easily softened the role for TV, and I'm glad that they didn't. All in all, I'm super pleased with the show and can't wait to see what happens next. Keep up the fine work, gents. I know you will. Buster 2012, Lucas King.
Lucas rocks.
Yes.
I agree that Sarah Wayne Callies is doing a great job. Whether that be, we've gone over the debate of whether we should hate her or like her or whose fault it is. But either way, she's delivering it, which is, again, it's that gray area character, and I think she's doing a great job with it.
We also got great emails from Everard. Thank you for that email. It's a bit long, so we didn't have time to get to it right now. And from Austin K, who sent us the Gary Busey picture last week. This week he sent us a picture of Merle reaching for the hacksaw, and there's also a glue gun in the shot. So he was questioning why in the world the survivors would bring a glue gun with them in their bag of tools, and I frankly have no idea.
It's Dale. He's always prepared.
Glue and stuff, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say Dale's a Boy Scout, just like Jordan said.
And then, of course, we got another email from Aaron. We want to thank Aaron for his email. He points out Glenn had a completely Indiana Jones moment when he went back for Rick's hat. And that hat, it's not my favorite style of hat, but it has such significance in the story. It really is cool to see them working it into the show as much as it was in the comic. And so we want to thank everybody for their emails. You too can have your emails read on the show in future episodes if you send an email to comments@walkingdeadtv.com.
All right, folks, so that's it for the Walking Dead TV podcast, episode 11. This was Vatos. We'll be back next week to take a look at episode 5, which is called, Jordan, what is that called? Wildfire or something?
She ran calling wildfire.
Thank you for that. As always, we can be found at walkingdeadtv.com. All of our other family of podcasts can be found at hhwlod.com. If you like the kind of in-depth review we're doing of this television show, we do it for comics, we do it for movies, we do it for lots of stuff on the Legion of Dudes show. And on Mondays, you can check out Half Hour Wasted, where they do lots of wacky and wild things like play games. What do you do? You play some trivia games? You yell at each other? What's going on Half Hour Wasted lately, Brad?
Not a lot, actually. I kind of would like it if you hadn't brought us up.
Episode 200.
Of course, episode 200. Tell us, Brad. Is that a Stickum thing? It's a live call-in show.
Yeah, we're going to have a live call-in on December the 5th at 6 p.m. Central at that number I gave earlier in the show, 972-798-3830. And the topic of our 200th episode is tell us about your hidden gems. Sometimes there's a book you read or a show you watch or a musical group you listen to that nobody else knows about. And so we want to hear about your hidden gems. That's what we're going to do. When we're not goofing around and talking about comics or something like that. Pardon me, I was choking on my own slobber.
A fine example of what you might hear on Half Hour Wasted.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we talk about all kinds of pop culture things, and the three of us, Bill and Frank and I, we've known each other for a long time, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. So anyway, episode 200, December 5th, that's what's coming up.
I will be there displaying my hidden gems. Also, we can be reached at 516-468-7912 for voicemails, comments at Walking Dead TV for emails, at WDTV Podcast for Twitter. Now, Brad, we have a bit of unfinished Twitter business. We told everyone on Twitter that if they got us to 300 followers by Friday, which they did, that we would have a Twitter contest. And I know you have been dreaming up a Twitter contest all day in anticipation for this very moment.
Yes, I have. I have the first 12 Walking Dead trades to give as a prize for this contest. I want to say the first 5, maybe the first 7 or 8 of them are signed by Robert Kirkman. Okay, I have those trades, but I must confess that I haven't decided exactly what I want the Twitter contest to be.
I'll start you off, and you decide because they're your books.
Okay.
Friday, at some point in the afternoon, we are going to leave a message on our Twitter. So this will reward the people who are watching the Twitter during the day. And we will tell them to email us something. And you, Brad, will be the judge of which one is the best of those.
Yes, that sounds awesome, and I'm glad I didn't have to come up with that.
Okay, so just to repeat and make sure, Friday afternoon, watch our Twitter. We're going to send out a message. We're going to ask some sort of question or make you do something foolish. And then we'll take maybe, the first 5 and judge from there. And you'll win 12 trades of The Walking Dead, and several are signed by Robert Kirkman.
And just to be clear, this is Black Friday we're talking about, right?
Oh, that's right. It is Black Friday. Perfect.
So there'll be a little bit, if you really want these trades, there'll be some effort. I know you're going to be distracted by Black Friday deals, but if you want these trades, you're going to have to pay attention to the Twitter.
Now, back to the closing of the show. You can always find us on Facebook as well. We have groups for the Walking Dead TV podcast, Half Hour Wasted, Legion of Dudes. We are everywhere. So now I am going to give this to Jordan, who is going to read the preview for episode 5, Wildfire. If you don't want to hear that, we'll see you next time.
That's right, John. We're going to go into the preview for next week and then possibly some bloopers. But before that, until there's no more room in hell and the dead walk the earth, remember, if you're forced to do your dog shopping at Satan's yard sale, you might want to move to a safer neighborhood. And next week on The Walking Dead, we have episode number 5, Wildfire. And the liner for that episode is, Rick leaves the group to the CDC after the attack, and Jim must make a terrible life and death decision.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Who's here?
This is Russ. Sorry.
Droogie?
What?
Nobody's ever seen
Clockwork Orange?
Oh, it's been
Thank
a long time.
Thank you, Jordan. Did you watch it with lid locks on your glazzies?
No, I watched it. No DVD player.
All right. All right, enough about that.
You want that in the can? No, I'll have it right here.
Glenn and Daryl make it to this.
Sorry.
That was awesome.
I apologize.
Are you playing Guitar Hero while we're doing this?
No, that's my text ringtone.
To the show, a non-comic reader to the show.